Okay, David wanted to say a word before I start.
I just want to add a couple more thoughts. One of them is about, remember. Okay. One of them is, we're here to recognize that we can have a young mind at any age. And one of the things about growing old is you think you're losing your memory. And there's no doubt about it. You will lose your memory. And that's the good news, by the way. That really is the part where it says hold on to nothing. Because remember, memory happens in time. And anything that happens in time is always of the ego thought system, which is your weak thought system, not your strong thought system. So if you have any thoughts, well, and I want to say I'm part of because my mother did have Alzheimer's at an age around 72, and I'm part of a study for people who are children of parents who had Alzheimer's, and I've just noticed that my consistency year in and year out when they go to test me is really always the same. And I begun to realize that obviously the Course has because if you're worried about things, if you're concerned about things, if you make anything in this world important, if you take any of these things seriously, your mind will wear down just like anything wears down. You're exhausting yourself. So as you let things go, the idea of I can't remember anything, that's perfect. Like, so what? It doesn't mean anything. I just want to share that with you.
Now you keep that, but turn it off. Keep it, but turn it off. Okay, thanks. All right. There were a couple of announcements that I didn't make earlier that I also wanted to. One is what's going to happen after this for June, July, and August. When I first started doing the entire text here, it took us 3 years from May of 2013 to May of last year. So we went through every chapter in the Course, 1 through 31. And I spent 1 week on the 50 Miracles Principles. And I noticed online the other day that there are over 9,000 hits on that particular topic. And I think it's an important topic. And so I'm going to do it, that part again. But I'm going to take at least 2 months, or maybe 3 to go through that, because I've been rereading it also in relationship to the new annotated version of the Course, which is, that part is much longer, and it's not new, the old annotated version. By the way, as you read this, you realize why it was, why the changes were made. It's so much simpler and so much easier to read in the FIP edition. Helen was not really impressed with some of her original stuff that she did. Some of it is actually kind of complicated. But we'll kind of look at that and wade our way through it. At the same time, they'll also look at I'll have the traditional FIP edition of the Course that I'll be working with primarily, but both will be true. There's a lot there, okay? So I wanted to talk a little bit about this ego thing that we keep talking about, because it seems to be this, as David would say, this thing that rattles around inside our minds and keeps us distracted and keeps us very much involved in the world all at the time that the Course is asking us to let this thing go. But as we all know, it's an incredible struggle. And you realize even if you have some success with it, that as David was saying earlier, it's easy to fall back and regress. I went to a neighborhood party last night. I live in a community of about development, about 50, 60 some homes. And this is a twice a year kind of thing. Just going from conversation to conversation, hanging out with a few people a while, and then hanging out with a few other people for a while. And just sort of noticing where the conversations were going. And a lot of the conversations were about the current political situation. A lot of the conversations were just about the outside world, right? Whatever it is that's going on. And realizing what an incredible distraction that is. And how easy it is for all of us to kind of fall into that. Well, that keeps all of us from waking up. That's a part of the dream. So you're just keeping the dream alive when you do that. I've noticed with myself sometimes, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that in public kind of a way. I wouldn't go attacking anybody. And then my wife and I will sit down. And no, I don't attack my wife. But some other individual, like when we came home from the party last night, I noticed that there's almost the beginning of this kind of analysis of various characters who were at the party, right? And I thought, why do we do that? That is such as David said, quoting like, there's nothing outside of you. And yet, what we were seeing is something that's outside of us, right? So one of the major emphasis in Ken Wapner's teaching was looking, look at what you do. Watch your projections. You have to be very, very aware of all these projections all the time, because if you don't, you've got to practice stopping this insanity. And it is a kind of insanity. It's a kind of insanity which keeps us trapped in the world. The idea is we want to get free. We want to get back to that peace of mind where none of that sort of stuff is there. That's why David said it's okay to lose that memory, because that memory is about nothing of any consequence at all. One of the things that you said earlier, David, reminded me of a line from the Bible where Jesus says, you cannot serve God and mammon, right? So it's really, really strict. You can't do both. You can't be of both minds. But let's look at how the Course talks about it. Oh, that just worked. No, go back. It worked. It worked. No, yeah, you didn't do that. I did. I'm going to. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about who we're not. And so the Course says, this is from the Course, the ego is a wrong-minded attempt to perceive yourself as you wish to be rather than as you are. Okay, as you wish to be rather than as you are. Yet you can know yourself only as you are, because that is all you can be sure of. That's the only thing which is true. So the mechanism of the Course is to clean house. Cleaning house is the undoing of that's what the atonement is. The atonement is the undoing of the whole ego system. It's letting it go. But you got to realize that you're dreaming before you can begin to awaken from the dream, right? And you have to sometimes kind of force yourself to awaken from the dream, to not continue to get caught in, say, in some sort of habituated activity, right? Some sort of addictive activity, for example, which is a good way to stay unconscious. So the ego is the questioning aspect of the post-separation self, which was made rather than created. That's a very important point. Made rather than created. So we make, God creates. And what God creates is love, essentially. I mean, love is a creative function. Love is the most creative function that there is. Whenever you're being loving, really, truly loving, you're being creative. We make up things in the world. I think it's interesting when actors go on the stage, we have to make up, right? We have to literally put on make up, right? Well, and we do the same thing in the world, right? Make it up. You have split your mind into what knows and does not know the truth. You are yourself. So the main thing is there is a part of you which knows. It's like there's three minds, right? The ego mind, which is the wrong mind. Then there's the guidance from the Holy Spirit, which is the right mind. And sort of standing between these two is this what Ken talked about a lot, the decision maker, which decides whether I'm going to go to the wrong mind or to the right mind. I noticed something last night at the party, and I'm not attacking this individual. This is just an illustration. I won't even, doesn't matter who it was, okay? There was a large lady at the party that I noticed, and there was a big table with spreads of appetizers and desserts, right? And the 3 or 4 times that I kind of noticed her, she was standing like this at the dessert appetizer table, trying to decide, right? There are all of these choices here, right? About what part of the world this worldly thing would be most appetizing, right? But kind of caught in that too. I mean, it's like everybody had their turn there, but every time I turned around, she was back there again in the same place. Well, we might be doing that with wine or with our complaining, just notice, I've said several times before, how easily you get caught in when you get with friends or neighbors or talking about they again, talking about the outside world, talking about the people that are screwed up, which is not you. You're cool. I mean, you have a really good understanding of what's going on out there, right? If you were in charge, things would work out fine. Right? Well, it's just gossip. There was just so much kind of gossip. I mean, we get together, we come to a party, and we gossip? This is what we want to do? I met one new young man, and actually he's a new neighbor. Our backyards back up on each other. I had not met him before. And he said, what do you do? And I said, well, I teach courses on mysticism and miracles. He didn't know anything about A Course in Miracles. He got really excited. Oh, let's talk. He was interested in the history of mysticism. Okay, now we can, I got somebody I can talk to, right? About something that's not projection. I mean, about, they're all concepts, they're all ideas, but at least they're ideas that we can work with. So we go back. So we all have agathococological minds, and I've used this word here before, and for any of you who do not know about it, agathococological is agatha comes from the Greek, it means good, and kaka, you know what kaka is, right? We have these kind of mixed double minds, a good, bad mind. If we go one way, there's that good part in there, we kind of like that, but then it's easy, it's really easy. So of course, it's this really, it's a kind of a difficult process or system of switching the mind so that there's much less caca that's going on. You're literally purifying the mind. You're cleaning out the caca. So you're just getting to the agatha part, right? And let's go further. So the ego is the part of the mind that believes it's separate from the mind of Christ. It's a split mind, which is 2 parts wrong mind right now. We talked about this already. Another way that we could talk about this is sane and insane, right? Let me go on. Oops. The experience of the world, as you perceive it, depends on the body, the ego being the decision maker. So very often when the Course is talking about the body and the ego, it's really pretty much the body is the ego's chosen home. On the ego level, you very much believe that you are a body. That's one of the reasons we're afraid of dying. If there was no ego there, you would not be afraid of dying, because you would realize that the greater part is really already a part of the mind of God. That's where the spirit is. That's why if you go through a really good hospice program, hopefully they'll help you to understand that this thing that you're about to lose, you're losing nothing. The Course says, what do you lose when you lose an illusion? Nada, right? So fortunately, there's a mind which stands between the two of these, as I said, is the decision maker. Let me move on. So the Course says we have a mission here. We did not come to enforce the madness that we once believed in. Let's not forget the goal that we accepted. It's more than just our happiness alone we come to gain. Fail not your brothers or fail yourself. Look lovingly on them that they may know that they are part of you and you of them. Now, this is a very important point, which I want to get to a little bit more deeper here. I'd like to. So, this is an interesting line from the. So, what the function of the mind, of the ego, is we project. We make up the world we see, right? And I noticed, like, with all of this gossip that was going on at the party, most of it had to do with something that was wrong with some part of the world somewhere, right? But this is all projection, and this is a great line from like, projection will hurt you. You know, not it'll hurt what you're projecting on too. I mean, it may very well hurt that, but it's also hurting you. It reinforces your own belief in your own split mind. If you're saying that there's the self and other, there's an other, and the other is the problem, then that reinforces the idea of something that is external. Of course, there is no difference between us, literally. No difference. With our bodies, yes, of course, there's all kinds of differences amongst bodies, but not with the mind. There's only one mind here. That's the Course talks about one-mindedness. So you're a part of that mind. So if you attack a part of that mind, you're attacking yourself. You're attacking yourself because you're a part of the mind that you're attacking, right? So it reinforces your belief in your own split mind, and its only purpose is to keep the separation going. That's a very important point. We keep the separation going. Just think for a moment about what's going on in Washington, D.C. right now. Now, I'm not talking about anybody. I'm not talking about our president. I'm not talking about all the people that are around there. But it must be a pretty unhappy place because there's a lot of projection going on. There's a lot of accusations that is going. There's a lot of hiding going on. There's a lot of secretiveness that's going on. You know, the Course is really clear. Don't hide. You know, if you're getting caught up in this kind of sleuthing stuff that goes on within the context of the mind, that makes you very unhappy, right? Because then you got to feel like you got to protect that, whatever it is that you're protecting. There's really nothing to protect, right? But as long as you think that there is, as long as there's secrets, you know, the Course is very much against having secrets, right? Because you want to have a clear mind, a clean mind, a healthy mind, and the only way to do that is to have one that's free of any junk. There's no junk in there, right? It doesn't mean you got to go telling all your secret past life stuff, your story to other people. It just means that as you move forward in life, you watch out for this stuff. You become very aware of it, and if you see yourself starting to go, you stop it right away. I've even realized that I don't even want to do this with my wife. I mean, with my wife, it's easy. I mean, it's easy to sit down on the back deck and fall into some sort of judgment about something. But even there, it's not necessary. Because just the fact that if I'm entertaining those kind of thoughts, right? We don't want to be entertaining those kind of thoughts under any condition. Did you want to say something?
I just wanted to say, whenever you're in a secretive mind, you're defending yourself. And lesson 135, if I defend myself, I'm attacking myself. All we're doing is increasing guilt.
Right.
And guilt is the reason why we're stuck in the dream, because we want to exonerate ourselves. Well, one day I'm going to exonerate myself by, and you fill in the blank. But you can't get rid of guilt. There's one line in the Course I just want to mention. It says, you're innocent in eternity, but not in time.
But not in time.
In time, you're actually guilty, because we're all guilty of believing that we're separate and apart. That's a thought of the separate mind, and we're guilty of that. That's the truth. So where do you want to hang out? Where you're innocent in eternity, or you're trying to get out of being guilty in time? It's impossible. You can't get out of it. You just have to wake up from time. All right, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so actually, there's two kinds of projection, remember? So there's the projection, which is the analysis, the interpretation, the condemnation. Then there's another kind of projection, which comes forward, which is just loving. We're loving whatever we're seeing or whoever we're talking to. That's the function. If you're being loving, then you feel good. They feel good, whoever they are. This is a complete reversal of the mind. So there's no projection, which is of condemnation sort, but there's plenty of it. It's called extension. There's an extension, which is being loving. That's God extends. God is continually in the process of extension of his love. That never ends, okay? And it always has been. So projection hurts us because when we project, we exclude ourselves from love. Just think about that. We exclude ourselves from love. We're not being loving when we do it, even if it's about a very small, tiny, little, seemingly insignificant something. All right? You're playing into the dream. You're playing into the story, the soap opera. So you can't be free. There is, in truth, nothing to project. Our task is very simply to extend love. Extending love is healing. That's how healing occurs. You want to heal a situation? Love it. A woman came up to me last night at the party, and I said, "How you doing?" And she says, "Oh, trouble with a teenage daughter, and all kinds of stuff's going on. She's actually talked about killing herself, and what am I going to do?" And I said, you just love the hell out of her. Just, there's one main thing. She's got to know that you really love her, regardless of whatever else kind of stuff is going on in the world. That's the fix. That's the healing. If you do nothing more, then make it. Don't condemn. Don't analysis. Don't blame. Don't attack in any way. Just keep loving the heck out of her. And she says, I know you're right. Right? She knew that was the right answer. Of course, it's the right. It's such a simple answer, isn't it? And when people are hurting, they're really asking us to love them. They're saying, "I need your love now." Even if they're not saying that, that's what they're saying, right? So extending love is healing. When we exclude others, we hurt ourselves. So projection reinforces the belief that the ego, the split mind, is real. The only purpose of projection is to keep the separation going. So we said that. When we separate ourselves from God, what we are saying is, "I like being independent." This is the egos are. I like being independent. I like being special, right? I like being right, but you don't really. That's just really the thing that's on the surface. Underneath, it's much better to be wrong than to be right. And but by that I mean if you're criticized, for example, it's better to look and to listen and to understand why somebody's offering a criticism, so what can you learn from this? Not how did you offend yourself against it, but there's got to be some reason why this person is saying this. Are they crazy, or is there some truth in there? If there's truth, look. Don't defend yourself. Strong egos like to preserve themselves. If I project, what I'm saying is that I'm good and you're not good. I'm right and you're wrong. Ken Wapnick, who obviously David and I both tremendously admire, he was the spokesman for the Course, no doubt about it. Ask us repeatedly over and over to think about what is a projection for? What is a projection for? If you started to analyze somebody else to a friend, why are you doing that? That's a very good question. Why? And that was the kind of thing I noticed going on at the party. Or it didn't just have to be the party. It could be any place. It could be any time. We fall into that thing. And especially maybe you do it around the president. Leave him alone. Really, leave him alone. Just let this die a natural death.
Can I add something to that question?
Yeah, where's the mic?
He has the mic. And I believe I heard this from Kenneth Wapnick, that what is projection for and why do we project? Projection is the projection of our responsibility of guilt. That's what projection is, and that's why we're projecting. We're projecting our own responsibility that we have for our own guilt onto others.
Right.
Isn't that beautiful?
So if there was no guilt in there, you wouldn't be projecting.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely. I just
You,
thought,
hold-
I
you
love
can
that.
you can keep it for a minute.
No.
Oh, we'll put it here. Okay. Do we want to keep the separation going, or can it begin to undo the separation? The real task in the Course is undoing, right? It's not about doing anything. The Course tells you that you don't do anything at all, you just undo. That's how the healing occurs. Separation sees everyone as different. Undoing the separation, we see everyone the same. This is very important. You begin to see everyone is exactly the same, not on the surface, not in the color of the skin, not in all those kind of things, but the mind. There's only one mind, so that's the same mind. And you're a part of that. So if you're excluding someone else, you're excluding yourself. Yeah. David.
Actually, thank you for that. I was talking about chapter 15, section 11, Christmas or Christ as the end of sacrifice.
Right.
That's the line I didn't put in. Make this year different by making it all the same.
Right.
That's how you get out of the ego mind. The ego cannot see sameness. It's incapable. You can only see differences. We made it that way. We wanted to be special, so we needed a radar system that sees better and worse and attack and defense and things like that. But when you say, no, I'm only interested, make this year different. I want to end all of this. I want to return to the Christ mind, make this year different by seeing it all the same. It's your willingness to see sameness is when you realize that you're not listening to the ego anymore.
Very good. Thanks. Let's go on. When I project, I see you as someone who is more sinful than I am. That's about what we're saying, isn't it? This is the person that's worse than. This Course is asking us to be honest about what we're doing when anyone who is trying to correct you says, I'll be honest with you. Watch out for that phrase, I'll be honest with you. Right? They're saying they feel justified in their projection. All right? No one makes us project. That's a very important point. No one can make you project. And yet notice how frequently, easily we do it. No one makes us hate. I say over and again, don't let anything take the peace of God away from you. That's such a simple, don't let anything take the peace of God away from you. That's the way to handle any projection you've been holding on to. No one can take love away from you. No one can take the peace of God away from you. No one can take the power of your mind to make the right decision away from you. Projection keeps the dream of exclusion and separation going. I've said that, but let's just underline it now, boldly, right? Course says the ego justifies this projection on the grounds that it makes you seem better than they are, thus obscuring your equality with them still further. So if we're all equal, there's no need to go obscuring this equality that's there. That's what we do. So projection makes it seem like we're better than others. We live the Course by being kind to everyone all the time. I was listening to it again, a tape by Ken, and one of the things, to heck with the metaphysics, to heck with understanding all the complicated parts. Just be kind. I mean, that was one of his basic teachings. If you don't know what to do, just be kind right now, in any situation. I had a little situation that happened at the bank a couple days. We can always any one of us can go back and reach out for So we got a check for a subscription to Miracles Magazine from a guy in Canada. It said on there, drawn on U.S. Bank, but there was not enough numbers on the check. So the bank said, would you please send this back to this guy and ask him to replace it with a money order, all right? So I sent it back, and he sent the money order in, and I took the money order to the bank, and there was still not enough numbers on the check, on the thing, right? And the teller was saying, well, look, we can process, $44 check. We can process for you anyhow, but it's going to cost $20. Okay, so it's going to cost $20 and I'm not going to go back to this guy a third time and say, look, you got to get us another kind of a check thing. And there was this little impulse. You know this little impulse? There's this little impulse in me to just tear that check right up in front of that teller, you know? And I thought, that is insane. Right? What an insane idea to tear the check up in front of the teller, right? Well, the hell with it, you know? I said, go ahead, you do that. Well, leave it alone, but just note it, catch it quickly. Catch your insanity very quickly. The moment you see it coming, and you're about to say something, a little with a raised voice, or a little throw a little attack back at a sales clerk, or a bank teller, or a waitress, or a waiter, or whatever it is, stop it. Real quick, real quick. Yeah? It's not a loving thing to do. It would not have been a loving thing to do. Okay, I lost $24. Big deal. Mastering the Course comes in the demonstration of kindness at all times and all places. It's all about seeing everyone the same. And just a few more. Projection and attack are inevitably related because projection always is a means of justifying attack. It's always a means of justifying. It is an attack. And it's a justified. There's no such thing as a justified attack. Right? If somebody were to attack your body, yes, of course, you would do anything that you could to prevent them from hurting you, right? That's natural. What we're talking about here are egos. Egos do not need defending, right? Doesn't mean you don't tell the truth about things, but, right? So the ego uses projection only to destroy your perception of both yourself and your brother. That's a very important line. Uses projection only to destroy, whoa, your perception of both yourself and your brother. Let that one sink in. There's some sentences here. I want to give you something. It's going to come up here. Everybody take one of these. They're little, and put it someplace on your, don't put it on your cell phone because you might have trouble getting it off. But put it on a card, put it in a notebook, this is just, and let me have one so I can read it. Okay, all this says is your part is only to allow no darkness to abide in your mind. I once heard Ken say everybody should memorize this, so I thought, well, this is the best way to memorize it. You know, find some place, I don't know where, you know. But as I said, the cell phone's not a good idea because it would not come off easily. But a piece of paper or a card or something, right? Your part is only to allow no darkness to abide in your mind. That's your only job. And so look at these little places where the darkness comes up. Like the situation with the teller. You know, there was a little bit of darkness that sort of stuck its head up there. I was going to just rip the check up right in front of her. No.
And then I learned from you, only the ego can be offended.
Yes. Only the ego being offended. True. That's off-ended. That's knocked off the end. Only an ego can be upset. Okay? Only an ego could be disappointed. Only an ego could be disgusted. Right? I can keep running through the list of types of things. Did you want to say something, Ed? Yeah. Can we quick back to Eddie. Yep.
I have like an illustration of something that's kind of clear. Not that this isn't going on in my own life all the time, but I was visiting some friends in Connecticut, and they have the TV on all the time, watching the news. You know, it's like, right. And I thought this is like really Shakespearean, and the magnitude of all these,
right,
this tragedies unfolding, and this overblown people. But that's not what I'm really saying. What I'm saying is that, like, my friend, the husband of my other friend, he really loves it. And in a way, I'm just thinking about what you're talking about, projecting, and thinking about how...
He loves what?
What's that?
He loves what?
He loves watching, he can't get enough of the news on CNN and all, I guess.
Right.
So, so I'm thinking, as you're talking, like, there's also that the projection is any negativity that's not worked out consciously
Right.
in some way.
Right.
So there's some kind of process or scaffolding, I think, that needs to be. You can't tell this guy, my friend, he's a very smart guy, but I can't tell him, you've got unprocessed anger there that you're projecting onto Donald Trump,
No,
you
you
know?
can't.
And so there's a process that somehow we all have to go through, I suppose, of owning our anger
Exactly.
moment by moment.
Right.
I don't know how you do that. I mean, I try all different kinds of ways all the time, but
You do it simply by what we're just saying, by being aware, first of all, being aware of the fact that that's what's happening. So as we do the course, it should be raising our level of awareness so that we see these kind of things, we see the insanity coming up, so we stop it right away, so we don't allow the mind to actually go there. Who's in charge of this mind?
But it's such a relief. I could see what a relief it is for him to not have to own all that. You know, it's those guys are the bad guys, you know, and it's such a relief to not feel like you're the one who's screwing everything up.
There's only, if I can suggest that there's only one thing wrong in what you're saying.
No, I'm not saying that.
No, let me finish. The thing that's wrong is that it doesn't make people feel good.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Ultimately, no.
Oh, right.
I'm with you 100%.
All right, I thought you would. It's just that sometimes we say, well, he felt good letting that anger out. Well, it doesn't make you feel good to let your anger out.
I'm not, totally
Right.
agree.
All right. You say, well, it feels good to have a cigarette, or it feels good to indulge in too much wine or whatever. Well, no, it doesn't, because there's another part of your mind which is feeling guilty about this. You never feel better by feeling guilty, and we know what we're doing, something that makes us feel guilty. You know, I couldn't help but be concerned about the big lady what's at the dessert table last night, and the temptations were so great, and you know, she's not really happy. You know, it's not making her feel good to do that. I mean, here's an opportunity for a temporary, momentary, quick little charge of something, but there's something bigger than that underneath that that's very unhappy. Otherwise, that wouldn't be, the temptation wouldn't even be there, right? It wouldn't even be there, right? So we are one in heaven. We cannot know that we're one when we're building cases against others. So just watch out for building cases. That's kind of what I was trying to do. I go from one conversation, they're building a case about something. I go to another conversation, they're building a case about something. I go to another, they're building a case of, there was something about the local school and the problems were going on the school over here at this one. Then I go to another one and there's problems about some sort of economic issue. Or that's what we do, and that's insane. So our government, at the moment, we talked about this, so let me skip that one. The process of projection begins by excluding something that exists in you, but which you do not want. This is part of what David was saying. And leads directly to excluding you from your brothers. It's very easy for us to find the problem in the other, which is the problem that's inside me. And I identify that very, very clearly. I'm not aware of the fact that that's what I'm doing, right? That person is very judgmental. What a judgmental person that is. I'm the judgmental person, right?
If I look at that one sentence again and look at what I just said earlier, the process of projection begins by excluding something that exists in you, but exists in us is guilt and our responsibility for it. So when you look at that sentence again, and this is so key because
Is this on?
it's on.
Okay.
This is so key because the process of projection is the process of excluding something that exists in us. And what is that we're excluding? We're excluding the guilt and our responsibility for it. So the process of projection is getting rid of our responsibility of our own guilt and projecting it onto others.
Exactly. That's the way it looks, but it doesn't work. That's the main point. It doesn't work because what actually happens is it increases the guilt. Now I feel more guilty than ever before, and if I keep pushing it down, it becomes kind of unconscious guilt that's in there, that's just like that there's something that's wrong, or you don't even quite know what it is, but you don't feel good. I mean, it literally can make you sick, literally make you sick, right? And then it'll come out in some sort of either, when we do that, the Course says it comes out in one of two ways. It either comes out as an attack onto somebody else, or it comes out an attack on our own bodies. And then we get sick. The ego wants separation and exclusion. We don't want to look at our own guilt. This is all we're saying here. So we reject it and say the guilt's not in me, it's in you. A few more. The difference between the ego's projection and the Holy Spirit's extension is very simple. The ego projects to exclude and therefore to deceive. So the basic deception is that you are sinful and I am sinless. We are different and these differences are real. While the ego projects to exclude, love seeks to include. That's a very important point. Right? What's important is projection seeks to exclude. Love seeks to include. What a big difference, right? You want to exclude somebody because they're a different race or color of skin or something that from you. That's insanity. Love likes to just sort of throw your arms around and love whatever it is, right? That's why I told the woman last night, just show your daughter how much you love her. Just keep showing her how much you love her. And why she realized that was the solution to a very simple solution, right? Whatever you do, do not attack. The Holy Spirit extends by recognizing Himself in every mind and thus perceives them as one. That's a very important point. Our job is to do the same thing, to see the Christ in every mind. Every mind, the Christ is there, right? Especially difficult maybe at times with certain people, but especially in those cases, that's where you need to do it. I told this story a couple of months ago, and I'm just going to repeat it as quickly as I possibly can without. A woman sent me a letter. She hated her mother. She hated her mother because her mother told her to go into the bedroom with her stepfather, right? When she was in her late teens, early 20s. You go to the bedroom with this man. That was the reason. That's plenty. You can understand why someone would hate their mother because of doing that, right? Then her mother died. This is all going back. I mean, she's in her mid to late 60s at this point. This happened when she was in her early 20s, right? She now has a dream. And in the dream, she sees her mother as an innocent little child. And it's her mother. And she loves her mother in the dream. I just thought it was such a great story because she was able to, she couldn't do it during her mother's own lifetime, but she was able to do it within the context of the dream. And a funny thing happened to me a few nights after that. I had a dream in which I saw someone that I had held some resentments and angry thoughts against. And he was a little boy. An innocent little boy. And what are you going to do but love them, all right? We can do it. It takes sometimes you got to go to another level to do it, right? It's almost like you couldn't do it consciously, but there's actually a line in the Course in Miracles which the Holy Spirit is working with you always, even in your dreams. Even in your dreams. They're still talking to you. And a lot of our dreams are fearful dreams, but they can have this other positive quality about them as well. Right? So our job is to recognize the presence of the Holy Spirit in every mind, realizing in fact they are afraid of love, which they are now excluding. If they did not feel separate, they could not attack. A few more. I already suggest with this one, but let me just amplify. Maybe the other's right if they're attacking you. Maybe you should really, really pay attention to what's being said and see if there's something that you can correct inside you, not them. Right? Nothing conflicts in this perception because what the Holy Spirit perceives is all the same. So people are different in form and thought. Don't make a big deal out of it. So if somebody has a lot of tattoos, they have the right. It's not a crime. I mean, if that's the kind of thing that you might not like, right? That's their choice. Doesn't matter. Doesn't change anything on the inside, right? The difference between the ego's projection and the Holy Spirit's extension is very simple. The ego projects to exclude. We did this far, didn't we? All right. Wherever he, the Holy Spirit, looks, he sees himself, and because he is united, he offers the whole kingdom always. This is from the Course. It didn't say Holy Spirit. It meant the Holy Spirit. You are the Holy Spirit. That's a very important point. You are the Holy Spirit. There is no separate state within the self. The Holy Spirit is our true, right-minded self. That's who you are. There is no difference. There actually is no Holy Spirit. But there is. By that I mean we have to have a way of talking about it as though there is the right mind, right? So we talk about it as the Holy Spirit. But if you were to merge completely with the Holy Spirit, then where would the Holy Spirit? Then it would be just one mind again. That's why there's no Holy Spirit. Because eventually, there's just one mind. And your part of that mind is the Holy Spirit. A couple more. This is where I got the part in it. So the Holy Spirit always given you perfect impartiality, and only by recognizing him impartially can you recognize him at all. When a judge is judging a situation, what kind of judges do we want on the bench? We want an impartial judge, right? So we want to get our mind, it's got to be an impartial mind. To talk about a part is to separate something off as separate. What if it's not separate? There is nothing to separate off, right? And then there's this piece that I gave you. So no darkness abides anywhere in the kingdom, but your part is only to allow no darkness to abide in you. You have that to stick in your purse or something, okay? And I talked about this. If we go around talking about the problems we see in others, how can we know the Holy Spirit's within ourselves? If all you're seeing is the outside, if all you're seeing is the problem, how can you be aware of the fact that there's a part of your mind that is sane? That's the good news. Everyone has a part of their mind is sane. We have agathococological minds, so part of it is insane. We just want to train the sane mind. There's no one to attack. There's no one to blame because everyone's the same. The ego is legion. Holy Spirit is one. And so we remove the blocks to an awareness of love's presence. We project. Removing blocks helps us to see better. And removing the blocks, we let the love shine through. This is sort of a nice idea. I like to sometimes think of it's literally like imagine there's a cement wall made out of concrete bricks, right? And you're literally taking them down. You're literally removing a block, which is inside you. And as you remove that block, you can now see better because the light comes through to you. That's all this course is about. It's all about just removing that wall of defensiveness. This is a good point, and then I'll wrap up. To see the wholeness of God's kingdom comes in seeing the sameness. The real question is, what purpose does the projection serve? That's the question. Think about that. If you're feeling like you want to be projecting, where is this coming from? Why? It's always, why the projection? Why do I see this problem? Why do I want to talk about this problem? Why do I want to share it with other people? Because what we do when we share, we amplify it. And if we amplify, it's like you're giving mass to it. You know, but it has no mass. Your mind should have no mass. Does that make sense? You all know Neil deGrasse Tyson, the cosmologist. So I'm listening to him once in a while. He says, the only thing that can travel faster than the speed of light would be something which has no mass. What has no mass? The mind has no mass, right? There's nothing there. There's no form. Light has no mass. That's a very interesting discovery, that there's no mass there, right? What good does anger ever do? What good does anger ever do? That's the part of what you're talking about, Eddie. I don't think anybody ever feels good when they get angry. When they say, oh, you feel better after. No, you don't. No, you don't feel better. You'll actually feel worse. You may feel, at the time it's going on, you may think that you feel better, but not really. Underneath there is desperation.
Never justify.
Yes, anger is never just. The Course says never just. The word is never, not sometimes. We'd love it if it said sometimes. It's never. Does it bring peace of mind, or is not insanity? It's not. Peace is the very opposite of sanity. Insanity. Right? If you can't sleep at night, what's keeping you awake? The French have a saying, there's no pillow as soft as a clear conscience. No, that has mass.
It does. Too much mass. Then you got to wake up with yourself, right?
Yeah, that's right. Right. And you got to deal with it, right? Okay. I think that I'll stop at this. Okay, that's a good place to stop because it's 5 minutes to 4. Billy was saying to me at the break that I said we were going to try to cut back to 4, and he very nicely said, well, it goes so fast, I don't see why we need to do that.
Love it.
So I don't know, we'll see how you all feel about it. We can go to 4:30, but we're going to run over the time a little bit today. Are there any questions before we do that, or any dialogue for David or I? Either one. Yeah. Oh, wait, let's get some. Where's the mic? I'm sorry, but it's got to be on mic. Otherwise, it doesn't go on to the.
If you watch a video, you'll understand why it needs to be.
That's right.
Okay. First of all, I enjoyed meeting you, listening to you, Dove, and I feel like I'm part of this small treasure. You know, I don't know. I show up and I feel like a dried sponge, and I just soak it all up. And I think that's why I just notice the time go by. And I'm that type of person where, you know, it doesn't take much for me to lose interest, and I don't find that happening here. But one of the things that I'm struggling with in the Course is that I listen a lot, and I see it unfolding in my life, and I'm finding myself a lot more patient and peaceful and loving and forgiving and kind, you know. And, you know, we talked about anger. Sometimes I think the reason why I get angry is because I want attention.
That's true.
Yeah. But Dove, when you talked about one foot in one boat and one in the other, and I know that that's my struggle right now, because I found, and I know it's probably just temporary, but since I've taken on the Course and meeting you, John, and listening to great books, I find that things that used to make me feel anxious or guilty or, you know, consume me with anxiety has lessened, but not because I've changed certain actions, like you talk about addiction, and you talk about the compulsion to take what this world has out there. And I find that I'm able to, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, I'm just saying this is where I'm at in my growth right now, that I can take it in and be better than I was prior to coming into the Course in Miracles.
Sure.
And maybe that has to do with time. I mean, I just keep absorbing and absorbing and absorbing. But I'm struggling with letting go. And I know that what they are, like we talk about the wrong mind. I know what they are, but I'm not ready to let them go. So.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Actually, John was talking about resistance and denial. We are in denial. If you're in a body form, we are already in denial. That's why the last unanswered question, which I happened to start earlier, chapter 21, section 7, the last unanswered question is, am I willing to see what I denied because it's the truth? This is not who we are. I am not a body. I am free. But the way you practice that so that you're setting a discipline for yourself is to accept. There's that lovely line in paragraph 18 of lesson 135. What can you not accept if you but knew that everything that seems to happen, everything, all events, past, present, and even to come, are gently planned by one whose only purpose is your good. So while we're in resistance, we all know what you resist persists. We are in denial as long as we are seeing the things of this world and we're trying to make sense of it. You can't make sense. Notice the goal of this course is not knowledge. He tells you this, right? He tells you about 3 or 4 times. The goal of this course is peace. So your willingness and your consistency, the second characteristic of the teachers of God is honesty. And honesty is another word for consistency. And as Thomas Jefferson said, the first chapter in the Book of Wisdom is honesty. So we have to be consistent. That's a commitment. You're doing this course as a total commitment. One foot in one boat, one foot in the other is, hey, I'm smart enough. I know what the course is saying, and I can do both. No, you can't. I'm talking about my own experience. I am, I'm one of the wise guys, right? I can do both. You can't. Sooner or later, you say, well, why do I keep doing this to myself? It gets down to its mental masturbation, basically. Yeah.
So true.
Okay.
That's my tug of war, but thank you.
Anybody else? Okay.